Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? It's your boy Isaac,
And this is your boy Bryce.
and we are brothers on tennis. And folks, we've made it through the Sunshine Double. Miami is in the books. We've completed another 1,000 series or level event. And Bryce, I tell you, man, it was a really great event. I thought we were going to actually have, a couple people taking out the Sunshine Double, but it didn't quite happen, bro. What were your
It did
thoughts?
not. It did not. And honestly, and I know we're going to talk about these matches, but I really thought Rybakina was going to do it.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
I,
Yeah, that
I,
that final. I mean, come on.
right. I thought Kvitova was about to take it from Rybakina, and that did not happen. I didn't believe that Carlos was going to do it. Just Medvedev's energy coming out of Indian Wells. I,
Hmm.
I just kind of felt like he was going to win Miami, so I wasn't surprised with that win. But I did think Rybakina was going to potentially do it.
Yeah. I think it seemed like it was the consequence of too many matches. You know what I mean? I think for
Hmm.
the Indian Wells winners, I mean, granted, Carlos made it to the semis, and Rybakina, of course, made it to the finals, but they both looked like they were a little on the tired side. I mean, we saw Carlos
Right.
cramping, which is not at all normal and or usual. So yeah, it speaks to the amount of effort that those champions were putting in. But regardless, Bryce, it was a really, really great tournament, and again, I was extremely pleased with the outcomes.
And I tell you what, I think I kind of watched Miami from a different lens this year
Okay. Yeah.
because knowing that we're going next year,
Right.
I was kind of looking more at the grounds and, really getting into some of the surrounding type of activities
Oh yeah.
that were happening around the tennis. And so all I can say is I am super excited to go to Miami next year.
Oh yeah, it's going to be fire. Let's make sure that we are clear on that. Miami is going to be fire next year, y'all, and I am excited to put on my orange and get down there because everybody was decked out in their orange, and they was like, "Yeah."
I know that's right. I don't have much orange in my wardrobe, so no, we're gonna have to order some orange BOT shirts.
Yes, actually, and yeah, we've got some. And so yes, you will see us looking live next year,
I
be
love it.
clear. Be clear. So with
Okay.
that, Bryce, how do you want to start this thing off? Where do you want to start from?
Well, since we were talking with injuries, you might as well go ahead and start with this women's doubles.
Right on.
Uh, because this was the draw that was probably most impacted by an injury.
Of course, exactly. Right. Come on, speak on it.
Yeah, and like we always say, just um, Krejcikova and Siniakova are the number one women's doubles team in the world, no question about it, period. Um, and so when Siniakova got injured, they had to withdraw. And normally we would say, okay, women's doubles, Krejcikova and Siniakova. But since they were now out of the draw and the number 9 seeds took the number 1 spot, it was, I guess, a little more open for others to win. But I think number 2 said, well, we're number 2.
Yeah,
So,
we're gonna live up to our seeding. That's right.
right, we're going to do what we need to do.
Do what we need to
Um,
do.
So we did get really kind of a cool final with
Oh
Coco
yes.
Gauff and Pagula against 2 other, we'll say, North Americans,
Right.
Taylor Townsend and Layla Fernandez. And, just a couple things real quick, Isaac. Number one, Taylor Townsend, I was not a believer once she had the child that she was going to bounce back.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like I hadn't seen that enough in her career before, baby.
Right.
But she talks about how having the child has kind of refocused herself,
Oh
allowed
yeah.
herself to refocus and to recenter herself, and so shout out to her. We have seen her consistently in the late rounds of the doubles tournaments over
Yes.
the last 6 months. So shout out to her. Leylah Fernandez has shown surprisingly. I mean, I really didn't know how good of a doubles player she was, but she's really pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Um, so, shout out to them for, as not being a seeded team and also losing early in Indian Wells to make
Hmm.
it all the way to the finals. But in the finals, Isaac, they met, you know, now what are they calling them now? Coco Gula?
Is that what it
Uh,
is? Coco Gula.
I guess a playoff of Coca Cola,
Oh
Coco Gula.
my, Coco Gula. All
Uh,
right.
Tell me, what did you think about that final?
Bryce, I actually found it to be a very entertaining final. I like all four ladies on the court, and I thought that first set was extremely competitive. I thought that they did a great job each side of, keeping it close. I just think a couple of, mistakes. In that tiebreaker, especially the actual final point of that first set, where Layla kind of shanked a swinging volley.
Hmm.
Maybe should have just done a traditional volley on that one, but hindsight's 2020, of course. But I think that was what told the tale, because I think had they been able to pull out that set, I really would have given them a good chance. But unfortunately, after that, Coco and Jess just started really getting into it, and they were just like, "Hey, let's open up the bakery because it's time to hand out a hocus
Right, exactly. So,
Yeah.
I mean, shout out to them. I mean, they've
Yes.
had a really successful partnership thus
Yes.
far. I know it kind of resolved some of Coco's issues with, whether McNally was getting into these tournaments or not
Hmm.
and being able to play. And the cool thing is, both of them top 10 singles, both of them top 10 doubles. I don't know if I hear enough people talk about that enough,
Right.
but
Exactly.
they are really representing the U.S.
Absolutely. And again, shout out to Taylor and Layla. I'm hoping that they actually form that team for the rest of the year, because I do feel like that would be a good pairing. It would be nice, of course, if Asia Muhammad was in there, but I think Asia may be just kind of set to play with somebody else. Although who knows? Yeah, yeah. I don't know. But if Taylor's gonna play with somebody, I would rather it be one of those two, either Asia Muhammad or Layla Fernandez. But I feel like she needs to lock in with one and really go for making the year-ending championships, because she can definitely get there. And yeah, I mean, she's won, a couple a title, been a finalist maybe once or twice. So the year is looking really good for Taylor Townsend.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's keep it moving and let's
Yes.
go over to the men's doubles.
Oh yeah.
And I just want to make a general observation, Isaac, and you can tell me if you agree or not. But
Hmm.
doesn't it feel like a lot of the teams that were just running things like this time last year can't win but a couple of rounds in a row this year?
Well, yeah, exactly. It seems like the top tier teams can't seem to get their consistency together. I mean, because you've got our guys, and not former, but they just are struggling with winning, and that's oh
Metic and
God,
Pavic.
Mektic and Pavic, exactly. Thank you. And they just seem to have been struggling for the last year and a half. You've got Ram and Salisbury, who made it to the top, top of the doubles ranks, and they can't seem to get their consistency going. And they got taken out by Tommy Paul and Ben Shelton. I mean,
Right.
they was like, "Am I scared of you? We got you." And I mean, just took them out. And I mean, we have seen a good amount of consistency from Kulhoff and Skupski, but even they got upset. But at least they can at least be excited about the fact that they lost to the eventual champions in Gonzalez
Right.
and Roger Vaseline. So in that regard, it's like you said, Bryce. There just seems to be inconsistency. Aravello and Roger lost in the first round to Jamie Murray
Hmm.
and Michael Venus, who then lost to, I don't even know who these guys are, Lamones and Withrow. I've heard of Withrow before, but I mean, it's that type of inconsistency that it's just like, what is actually going on in men's doubles? Because we're not seeing that level of consistency that we're used to.
And remember, even Cabal and Farah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they were at one time, they were like the ish team not too
Exactly.
long ago. And I see that they were probably happy to get to the second round here in Miami.
Right. They're not even ranked anymore. I mean, look
They're
at that.
not.
That's
They're
crazy.
they're not. So
Yeah.
the Quad brothers didn't, or the Quad fathers, sorry.
Yeah, quad fathers.
J,
Yeah.
JJ Wolf and our guy Jerome, they didn't get out of the first round after they performed well in Indian Wells, and
Right.
so yeah, it's just a bit of a crapshoot, really, in men's doubles these days.
Yeah, there may end up being a little bit of consistency that we start seeing maybe on the clay, because I do know there are a couple of doubles teams that really enjoy the clay, so we may start seeing a little bit of consistency. But with that said, I mean, shout out to Krajcek and Mahut for making it to
Hmm.
the finals, and shout out to Gonzalez and Roger Vasselin for taking that title. I mean, good on y'all, folks. That's a great feat.
Hey, look, a Masters 1000.
Mm,
This is what you want to do.
that's right. Come on now.
So, okay, so we have properly acknowledged the men's and the women's doubles, and let's just take it to the singles, and we'll go back to the women's side of the house, and from a tournament standpoint, we lost Iga
Yep.
at the very beginning, so she wasn't around to try to bounce back from Indian Wells.
Mhm.
Um, but what did you think about the tournament as a whole for the women's side?
Well, I actually thought it was really good on the ladies' side. I think there were a couple of standouts that we can, of course, give some shine to. And first and
Hmm.
foremost is Kvitova. I mean, Kvitova was like two steps away from retiring just last
Right.
year. So for her to make it to the finals and then take the title, come on, man. That in itself is a great result on her part. And we all know Kvitova. We know her story.
Yep.
The fact that, again, she didn't even know she'd be able to come back and play women's tennis. So to be able to come back and snag a 1,000 level tournament, that to me is just straight out, just shout out.
Yeah. No, that was not only an amazing result; it was a totally unexpected result
Right.
because nobody came into Miami with Kvitova on the tip of their tongue.
Exactly.
Um, Now, I will tell you, I did feel a certain kind of way toward the end of the tournament
Hmm.
when she was in her press and they had come out with the announcement that this year at Wimbledon, they were going to allow the Russians and the Belarusians to play.
Hmm.
And she came out and said that she didn't feel like that was right.
Mm. Okay.
And I was really surprised that, you know, she would say that. That's not the way I kind of perceived her to be. Now, granted, everybody has a right to their opinion,
Right.
and so she's fully, I think our listeners know what our opinion was on it. But it's very interesting because, being from the Czech Republic, as she is, the two best players that ever came out of her country had to defect
Right.
to
Right.
be able to freely play. So I was thinking like she should understand more than anyone,
Right.
the
Right.
division between what the players are trying to do and political stuff that's happening on the outside. Now, I say that on one side, the other side, uh, because of comments that Sabalenka made, which was just how and I guess I wasn't thinking about this, just how frosty things still are between some of the players
Hmm.
as a result of
Absolutely.
this.
And
So
we've seen
maybe
that.
so if I'm giving Kvitova the benefit of the doubt at all with this, is maybe she was just saying maybe it'll help avoid some of that that's going
Hmm.
on.
Right.
But I just when I read that, I was like, oh, really? I mean, all of the one thing the tennis players, especially at their level, that they all have in common is that they have basically sacrificed everything to
Right.
pursue this dream, right?
Right. Yep.
And you just hate to see uh, any other factor, political or otherwise, that prevents them from being able to realize that dream.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. Like I said, I did this one. It's a tough one, and I know that there are probably some inner workings that we probably are not privy to. That
Hmm.
that may be leading her to have that position. Because for me, like you're saying, you would think that again, given everything with the Czech Republic, that would be understood. But again, given Petra, I'm willing to give that a bit of a, you know, you know what I mean? It's kind of like I respect her a lot because I think that she, among a really majority of the players, she's well liked. I mean,
Hmm.
everybody pretty much says they love Kvitova. So, for her to make that statement, I just feel like that there's probably some additional things behind that we probably are not privy to that's leading her to that. But it still doesn't change my opinion and our opinion on what
Right.
really it should be, which is, we feel like they are independent contractors, so they should
Hmm.
be allowed to play. And just because countries are at war, that's not on them as the individual. So again, I feel like it's the right thing for Wimbledon to do to not restrict them. But again, I'm not going to be on her for her position and her stance. There's a lot of other issues where I'd be like, okay, now listen, you wrong,
Right.
But I feel like in this particular occasion, she's I'm not going to hold this against her at all.
Yeah, I get that because she is, like you said, so well liked in the locker room, um, and I just wish more people would listen to like what Billie Jean King said. These tours were designed not to discriminate against people's religion, nationality, sex, and when we do things like this, then we are discriminating. You
That's
know.
right.
Um,
Absolutely.
but back to the tennis, like I said, she was not expected to win this tournament. Look, shoot, she may be the most surprised person out of everybody.
She
Uh,
was at the end of it. She was. That's for sure.
right, because let's be clear, Rybakina has been the hot one
Yeah.
on the tour. We know she just scooped up Indian Wells. She had a strong Australian Open. But she still should feel very proud of her accomplishments, and this has been a strong start to the season for her.
Absolutely, absolutely, and a couple other people that I feel like deserve shout outs as well. I think that Andrescu had a very nice run until
Yes,
she got injured.
yeah,
She that was very unfortunate, but at the same time, for her to take out again Maria Sakkari, to take out a resurgent Sophia Kenin, to then unfortunately suffer an injury against Alexandrova. I feel like Andrescu was really playing some good tennis there. So it's disappointing, and we hope that it's not too much of a an injury that she is able to recover and get back on the tour sometime this year. But that was a little tough. But shout out to her for the results that she was showing.
right. And shout out to Pagula for another deep
Yes,
run.
yes.
But this once again kind of underscores a concern I have for Pagula.
Hmm.
I think she could be, for completely different reasons, very soccer-ish.
Right,
Um,
right,
she's great week after week and getting deep, but there's always seems to be a player, and I'm not going to say this at a higher level or whatever, but there's always somebody who's at that point where they can kind of take her out.
right, right.
And so it's going to be interesting to see how Coach Witt, addresses that. Uh, I don't know if it's developing some additional weapons or whatever it might be, but it's going to be tough for her. Like if you're and Isaac, we know you love the big babe tennis. But
Hmm.
if a Pagula has to go through a Sabalenka and a Rybakina and who knows now maybe a Kvitova and you still got Iga out there, I mean she's gonna have to come up with how she handles you know those type
Right.
of players.
Right. Here's what I will say though about Pagula, Bryce, and I'm definitely not ready to throw her in that Sakari range as of yet. I do feel like she was actually extremely fortunate to get past a very, very hot Potapova.
Mm-hmm.
Potapova should have won that match actually, because she in my opinion actually outplayed Pegula in that particular matchup. But I feel like Pegula found a way to win, which I thought was it's really really outstanding. So I give her mad kudos for that. And truthfully, to lose to Rybakina, I mean, some of everybody's losing to Rybakina. So and she lost 7-6, 6-4, which is a respectable score line. So I feel like I hear what you're saying and I agree with what you're saying. I just feel like she's still right there in the cusp, in the thick of things. And let's also remember though, she was also playing doubles with Coco, and there were rain delays, and there were scheduling issues, and there was a lot from a mental standpoint that she was also having to deal with. And again, to lose to the who won Indian Wells and the finalist in Rybakina, and then to snag the doubles title, that's still pretty good. I'd say that's a pretty good, solid week for Jessie. But at the same time, I do hear what you're saying and agree with what you're saying in that Coach Witt needs to continue, pushing that narrative forward, which is we got to get some titles. We got to finish it off,
Right.
because right now Jess, I believe, has one, maybe two titles under her belt as far as on the WTA tour, and for her ranking to be 3, that's just simply not enough. That's not in my opinion, it, like you're saying, it's not acceptable. If you're the number 3 player in the world, you should be dusting some folks off. So for me, I know she's playing this week in Charleston. She needs to win that tournament. If she doesn't win that tournament, then to me there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
Right.
Yeah.
Because is she top seed there?
Yes, she is. Absolutely.
Okay.
And she's not playing doubles because Coco is not there.
Okay.
Yeah, Coco decided.
So I agree
not
with
to play.
you.
Yeah.
This is okay. We don't keep our good eye on
That's
her
right.
for this tournament, because, like you said, this should be one that she should win.
Absolutely. Yeah. Nothing other than a victory is, to me, is as a negative for Pegula. I don't even care that the fact that we're going from a hard court to a clay court. Doesn't matter.
Right.
She should win this tournament. Simply put.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
So, so the cool thing, kind of back to the final, is that Kvitova has re-entered the top 10.
Yep.
And because, like I said, I don't even know if I wasn't checking for Kvitova for nothing.
At all. I was shocked she was almost about to be back in the top 10. I just didn't
didn't
know
know
she was that close. I was like, how have I been missing your results?
I thought she was out on that boat with Crystal Waters and Terrence Trent D'Arby. I didn't, we didn't know where they was at.
Right? Come on, man. Right?
So, but good on her, and like I said, good on Rybakina as well. So
yes.
Now let's take it.
Yes, take
to
it
the
to
guys.
Fellas. Take it to them. Yes, sir. I mean, it was just a great tournament, Bryce. It was a great tournament on the guy side. Just matchups galore. There's so many people to talk about. But before we get into the whole, who won and all that fun stuff, let us give the official shout out to Mr. Chris Eubanks. Come on now.
Yes.
Come on now. Let us give the shout out, people, to Chris Eubanks, who enters the top 100, who took out Churich, who took out Manarino. Come on, man. Chris Banks showed up this tournament, Bryce. I don't know about you.
No, he really showed up, and I think didn't even make it into the top 90 or something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just such a great tournament from him to get through qualies, to get some just incredible wins. I think he made it wasn't it the quarters that he made it to before losing, of course, to Medvedev, which ain't no shame in losing to the eventual champion. And it was respectable either. He was 6-3, 7-5. Ain't nothing wrong with that score line against Daniil Medvedev. Are you kidding me?
Not at all.
That's excellent.
That is excellent. And, and let's just talk about his path real quick, because, he took out, Kutla, who's, homeboy. So that was a good win. And then I think he really caught people's attention when he took out Chorich.
Yes, that was big.
Yeah, I think they expected him to lose that one. Honestly, now here's the funny thing. So what's the guy, Barrera?
Yep.
Yeah, his name. That was the guy who we watched play against Jack Sock.
That's correct.
In Indian Wells. I actually expected Chris to win that match. because
Mm-hmm.
who was not impressed with Barrere anywhere was me. And so,
But Barrere did take out Cam Nori though the round before.
you know what? We don't have the details on what happened there with Cam Nori, but there was obviously something going on. I'm just gonna be real honest. I'm not impressed with Barrere's game, and if I meet you, Barrere, don't take no offense. I'm just talking about your game, and I'm talking about you as a person. So, but so Eubanks came through that one, which was great. But the one that I expected for Eubanks to lose to was Manarino, because that dude tricky.
Yeah, Manarino tricky. He got them tricks. Mm-hmm. But Chris
But
was like, I'm not having none of it. I'm
for
having none of it. And
kids,
we're going
for
to get to these
kids,
tie breaks. Exactly. Tricks are for kids, folks. Come
for
on, man.
kids. So yeah, really shout out to him. And now this is what I have said though to several people.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want this performance to be like when Taylor Townsend beat Simona Halep at
Right.
the U.S.
The
Open,
US Open.
and then she couldn't do nothing after that.
Right.
I am hoping that Chris is able to use, his results from this week to build upon. Now, granted, it may not be the best time to build upon them getting ready to go on this clay.
Right.
But, I really think he could do damage on grass, of course.
Oh, yeah.
And we just saw what he can do on hard courts.
That's right. Yeah, I agree with you, Bryce. I am hoping that he can, maintain that level of confidence, getting into the top 100 and or 90s, which is where he's at. He'll be able to get direct entry into Grand Slams now.
Yes.
He'll get that automatic check. So he got them coins coming in. This is all just a wonderful, wonderful thing for Chris Eubanks. So I'm just so proud of that young man. Very happy for him.
Yes. So, so let's talk about the end of this tournament, and let's jump to the semifinals. And we'll start off with the one that we knew how it was going to go, the battle of the Russians, and that was Medvedev and Khachanov. And I say that no disrespect to the match, because it was a great match. I mean, Khachanov came to play.
Right.
And it's tough when you are playing against someone that you've basically played against your whole life.
Right. Yep.
That's tough. But as we've come to learn, Medvedev knows how to get the job done.
Yes, he does. Yeah, it was a great match. Like you said, Karen showed up. He took that middle set. Took the first set to a tiebreaker. So again, he played his countrymen strong, and that was it was a really good match. But at the end of the day, I think everybody understood who was coming out of that match.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, Khachanov knew who was coming out of that match.
Exactly. But shout out to him for the results he got, and hopefully he's finally getting himself together so he can get back into the top 10, or at least try and fight for position in the top 10, because that to me is where he belongs. Because in truth, Bryce, Khachanov was the first one to step out there. He was the one that kind of got himself going. Then you had Rublev that kind of came right behind him and kind of pushed him into the shadows. And then Medvedev came and said, y'all just need to step out the way. Right. But Khachanov, like I said, I believe he won. Didn't he win Paris? I think he won Paris at the end of the year. So he's got a 1,000 or a Master Series under his belt. And like I said, he to me is a big enough threat that he should always be fighting for that, that top 10 spot.
Right. Oh, and before we get out the bottom half of the draw, if y'all haven't been paying attention,
Cerundolo, yes, sir.
I mean, he has been playing some good ball lately.
He really has. That result actually surprised me, because I typically think of Cerundolo as a clay court player.
Clay quarter.
Yep. Yeah. So for him to be able to make the semis, and again, great wins in the fact that he took out Felix Auger-Aliassime, he took out Sonego, who apparently likes beating up on black folks, because he likes beating up on Tiafoe and FAA.
Yeah.
He was like, ain't nobody scared of you. But he got to Cerundolo, and Cerundolo was like, no, sir, I'm Argentinian. We don't play that.
Right.
So you can take all that Italian bread back home.
And then Hatchinoff, that was a great win for
Yes, it
him
really was.
over Cerundolo because he didn't waste no time with him, 3-2.
He really didn't. He was like, "Listen, I just took out CC Paz. I'm not trying to play with you."
So shout out to the bottom half. But anyway,
Yes.
let's go
Yes.
to the match that everybody was talking about, and after Alcaraz took out Fritz.
Yep.
And the semis, you had Alcaraz and Sinner, and
Mhm.
this is the matchup that a lot of people are talking about is the rivalry of the future.
Right. Yeah. And I agree with that. I agree with that. I think that again, Center has added Paul Anacone, no, I'm sorry, Darren Cahill to his
Right.
staff, and he has really, really improved his game. I mean, like I said, they were showing the stat where they said he's put on like about 5 or 10 pounds of muscle, and Center is just he's skin and bones anyway. He ain't nothing but a rail. So for him to put on that type of muscle and get stronger is really amazing. And which is crazy to say, he outlasted Alcaraz.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Right. But like you said, you know, some of that may have been due to, you know, Alcaraz ran the tables in
Yep.
Indian Wells,
Yep. Yep.
and actually he's been running the tables pretty much since he's come back from that injury,
I
except for
know.
that loss to Nori in the
Correct.
finals.
Yep.
So, and that's not to disparage what Center did at all,
No.
but that was a great, great match. And I'm telling you what, Center was a player that I've said many times, like, I don't care about watching him because just his style to me is kind of boring.
Hmm.
To me, he's becoming a much more exciting player to watch.
I agree. I absolutely agree with that. And that to me is just my matchup. I agree with what everybody has been saying. To me, I think that matchup is just really, really fun to watch because you've got the power center versus the power and creativity of an Alcaraz. And it just seemed like on the day, again, the power and overall endurance of center kind of worked out. But I tell you what, who was watching that match and was like, you know what? Hey, let's go. That was Daniil Medvedev because he didn't want to see Alcaraz. He didn't want none of that.
No, I think he did.
I
I,
I
I think he
I
did because he wanted him on a faster court.
it would have been great to have seen that matchup too, because it would have been awesome to see kind of what would have changed from the Indian Wells final, like what tactics would have kind of changed between the two
Mm-hmm.
of them. I really was hoping that was going to be the matchup, but Sinner played
Yes.
spoiler, unfortunately. But I hear what you're saying for sure, and the reason I say that is because again, he went into the final having a 5-0 head-to-head against Sinner, so again, it made it sort of like at least with Alcaraz, you would have thought that there would have been just a little bit more of a question mark on, okay, who is going to actually win this match? Whereas going into it with Sinner, my thought was already, yeah, he about to blow him out, which he
Well,
did.
right. I mean, and let's be clear, Medvedev doesn't give a damn about how good y'all think Sinner is. I mean, he really don't.
Right? He don't. He don't. He's
He
like, I know how
really,
good he is.
you know.
Exactly.
But I tell you what, this is why I really wanted to see that rematch. Number
Yeah.
one, because Medvedev and Indian Wells asked for it.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
and number two, yeah, because the courts were much faster.
Right.
And number three, believe it or not, is just to the level of gangsterism that is in Medvedev. Because
Right.
you know how like certain players, certain people, they live for the rematch.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I feel that from Medvedev, and
Yeah.
I think he probably went to sleep every night praying like, oh please let Carlos get in this final with me on these fast courts. I'm gonna show him what time it is. And but the consolation, it was a really good consolation prize to get Center, and
Right.
as you alluded, he's never lost to Center.
Right.
I do
Yep.
expect that to change at some point,
At some point,
but
yeah.
not today.
No, not
So
today. Maybe on clay. Maybe if they play on the clay, then that might change. But I don't know.
did you hear
Mother.
Center's comment about that?
No, what did he say?
And during the trophy piece or whatever, he was congratulating Medvedev for, basically the last 5 or 6 weeks,
Hmm.
and he said, "I'm not sure how that's going to be on the clay, but."
All right, you better throw it out there.
All right,
Yeah,
look,
yeah, I know exactly. He might want to make sure he know what's up before they get on
right.
that clay, because Medvedev
Don't
might
don't
have
poke
something
the
for
bear
him.
now.
Right, right. Oh man.
but but no,
But
it was a
yeah.
it was a good final. It really
Yes.
was, and
Yes, yes.
you know, just good to see. And this is selfish on my part. I want Medvedev to make sure he has that full confidence back,
Right.
because I need all my Djokovic beaters to be in top form as we're getting ready to have him
Yeah.
come back on the tour.
I think it's going to be tough though, man, because going into the clay court season, there's a lot of guys out there that just haven't quite got their footing on clay just
Hmm.
yet. And I feel like Novak again, if it's not Nadal or Alcaraz beating Djokovic, I because again, CC Pass will fold just because of the
Yes,
mental piece,
you're
and
right.
and I don't know that I see anybody else being able to match up well with Djokovic on clay. I just don't think that that's a surface that anybody else has really mastered to that level of being able to challenge him.
I have two for you that I'll throw out, and one of
Okay.
them I don't
Okay.
I don't know if he's healthy or not, but if healthy, I say Zverev
Right. Right. That's
can
true.
but I'm not exact. I mean, I saw in this tournament he went out to Taro Daniel, who, no disrespect,
No,
Daniel's been playing
Terrell's
well,
been playing some good ball,
but
but you should win
eh,
that match.
exactly. But the other one that I'm less confident in, but I'm curious on your thoughts, is what about Casper?
Unfortunately, okay, and here's the topic, and I know that we're going to likely do IG live, and this is the thing that I kind of want to speak to. For me, it's tough for me to really get behind someone that I feel like has a weakness, because I
Mm,
was even thinking about, like, I think about Tsitsipas. You're
hmm.
always going to be able to attack that backhand.
Right.
You think about Casper Ruud, you can always attack that backhand. The folks
Hmm.
like your Sinners, your Nadal, your Alcaraz, your Djokovic, I'll even throw a Sebastian Korda in there. They
Hmm.
are solid off of both sides. You cannot figure out what side to attack. I'll throw Felix in there as far as being the one that has a liability. That backhand is still a
Hmm.
liability. And that
Hmm.
to me is where I struggle with those guys being able to really, really get up and sustain a top five ranking, is they always have that glaring weakness in my opinion. And I just feel like eventually Alcaraz, and I think honestly Sinner, I mean, talk about his game all you want to, but I honestly feel like Sinner will be a mainstay in the top five very soon here, because I
Oh,
feel
I
like his
believe it.
yeah, his grounds, I mean, you can't attack either side. He's got both sides that are just tight. So I'm sorry to go off on a whole different tangent, right? But as far as Casper Ruud goes, that's my issue. Casper has a great clay court game, but he
Hmm.
still, at the end of the day, has a liability in that backhand that Djokovic will be able to
Expose.
attack and expose. Exactly.
Hmm.
And
Gotcha.
Zverev, I should put on the other side. You can't attack Zverev off of the forehand or the backhand. Zverev's issue is his serve. He's got to figure out that serve and be consistent
Hmm.
with a first and second serve. But if he does that, to me, he will also continue to be a mainstay in the top five. But you just can't have a
Right.
weakness. You can't have a weakness.
Right. Um, I have a comment I was going to make, but since we're going to try to end this show, I'm not going to make it. I may make it on the IG live,
There we go.
but
Yeah,
but
because we can get all into that for sure.
exactly. So anyway, shout out to Medvedev for winning the Miami Open, and it still blows my mind that this guy has won 19 titles, 19 different places.
Crazy. Crazy. That's
Right?
how good he is, y'all. That's how good he is.
So, well, you know, Isaac, you were mentioning before we came on, there's a little tennis going on this week, right?
Yes, yes. The ladies, of course, are in Charleston. I think that's really the big one to kind of look out for. Is you've got Charleston on the ladies' side. The men's, they've got the Houston clay courts. That's where pretty much all of the Americans are. Tiafoe's heading that one up. You've got the tournament in Morocco. Musetti is the top seed, and then you've got the Estoril, where Casper Ruud is actually the top seed. It's on clay. So again, we've got a lot of tennis out there, folks. So definitely keep tuned in because there's a lot. There's definitely a lot to watch.
Absolutely. So, well, I think that wraps up our coverage of the Miami Open for 2023. Next year, we hope to bring you some really cool coverage from on site at the tournament there.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
fingers crossed, we are really excited about that. So, any final words from you, my man?
The only thing I will say is, folks, we've got a couple days left as it relates to the Sports Podcast Awards. We are
Yes.
nominated as in the short list for the Tennis Podcast of the Year. If you have not done so, please go out and vote for us because we want to win this. And
Yes.
there's instructions on our IG, so please go out to IG. I'm pretty sure we got it on Facebook as well. But there's information on how to sign up and how to vote for us. So please do so. I believe the deadline, Bryce, is what, this Thursday, April 6th?
Yes.
Right. So if you could do that for us, we would greatly appreciate it.
Yes, there's a link to the voting site in our bio on IG. So that is there for your convenience.
Yes. Come on, y'all.
So, as always, thank you so very much for listening, and we will be back at you next week. Everyone, have a wonderful week. And on behalf of the podcast, this has been your boy Bryce.
And this is your boy Isaac.
And we are Brothers on Tennis. Everyone, be safe out there.